explore the current status of CEFR at a ground level, hoping that the higher-ups will be alert to the issues, challenges faced, and whatnot. Now, hopefully, not only the higher-ups, but all of us will be able to reap as many fruitful inputs and the tips from this seminar, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are regret to inform you that Dr. Khairul could not make it today due to an emergency, and we would like to apologize for this late notice. However, the show must go on, and it is my pleasure to introduce our beautiful and charming panelists for today. Oh yeah, we have two lovely Atikas for today. So the first panelist is Miss Nur Atikah binti Aznan. She obtained her degree in TESOL from Mara University of Technology UITM Shah Alam. She did her exchange program at Ball State University in Indiana, United States of America. She was an English instructor at University Tuanku Abdul Rahman Uttar, and she was previously a full-time English teacher at SMK Tengku Ibrahim in Terengganu. Interesting fact, she's a recipient of APC, Anugerah Perkhidmatan Cemerlang, and currently she's a full-time postgraduate student at IIUM Gombak. Okay, moving on to our second panelist, Miss Nurul Atikah binti Nori. Miss Atikah receives her diploma in TESOL from MSU Shah Alam, her bachelor degree in TESOL from UITM Shah Alam, and her Master of Education in TESOL from IIUM Gombak. She has 9 years of teaching experience in SMK Mak Lagam in Kemaman, Terengganu, and her expertise is that she is a master trainer, or we call as Juru Latih Utama CEFR for secondary school in terms of familiarization and curriculum induction. And she's also a master trainer in Terengganu for e-compact pentaksiran Bahasa Inggeris Sekolah Menengah. She's also pembina modul and soalan peperiksaan SPM English Terengganu. And currently, she is working as a TESOL lecturer at IPG campus, Datuk Razali Ismail. Okay, moving on to our third speaker for today, the only kumbang I would say for today, Brother Ahmad Kamal Effendi bin Khairuddin. Brother Ahmad Kamal is an English teacher and an inspiring writer. Okay, he received his bachelor's degree in education in teaching English to speakers of other languages, TESOL, at the University of Auckland, New Zealand. He is pursuing his master's degree in education, majoring in educational management at the International Islamic University of Malaysia, IIUM. He is also the assessment panelist and master trainer for the CEFR Aligned Primary School Achievement Test, UPSR. An interesting fact about Brother Kamal, he is also well known as a published writer with a poetry book entitled Bersendiri ke Pantai. Congratulations, Brother Kamal. I've heard many great reviews about the book, and maybe after this, we can all grab the book to read together, inshallah. All right, welcome Miss Atikah binti Aznan, Miss Atikah binti Nori, and Brother Kamal Effendi. All right, before I proceed, I would like to remind that throughout the session, to all the participants, feel free to put your question in the chat box, and towards the end of the session, I will pass your question to our speaker. Okay, without further ado, before we dive deeper into our seminar today, I would like to ask Miss Atikah Aznan. Perhaps you could briefly take us through the rationale of aligning the English language curriculum to the CEFR in particular. Or in other words, I would say that what is CEFR is all about? Please.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Am I audible enough?
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone, Assalamualaikum. I hope everyone has a good breakfast, and pleasure to see you all. Though I hope I can give my best, though that I'm not the best to talk about CFR, but I hope whatever that I'm sharing with you is beneficial to all. And yeah, with this, first I have received this question. When we talk about CFR, first thing we need to understand what is CFR. I think having the fundamental, the foundation of what CFR is, the framework, why it is applied in Malaysia, it is super important, because I believe the audience that we have is not only students, we have teachers, trainers, English teachers, so even lecturers. So we want to make sure that being teacher, because this is newly implemented in schools in our education system, having this understanding will avoid us to have this misconception, also misunderstanding of how CFR is delivered and how it goes. So I would like to share with you, I will walk you through what CEFR about. So I want to make sure that you know that CEFR stands for the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. So it is a standard, a global framework where it describes language learning, teaching, and assessment. And where it comes from? Well, it comes from the framework. People don't just write it in a year, like 5 years. It takes 30 years of research, and it is originated in United Kingdom, and it has come through a lot of testing, evaluation, and we talk about 30 years time. The experts have put their thought in it, and it's not. It is a reliable. We could talk about the reliability of this framework. And what is it is actually? It provides a detailed description of how foreign or what second language learner can do. Well, if you remember our previous format, our curriculum. Before this, we used grading A, B, C, D whenever we grade English paper. I'm talking about English, huh? So it was vague. How good is the A quality? What is this very vague line where we don't really know how A for your school might be different from A from different state and every school. And if I were to walk you through this, perhaps I can put the analogy of understanding CEFR is that it is having a standard measurement. I can use the analogy of a football, perhaps, because it's World Cup Qatar, and every country they have their own football tournament. So in Malaysia we have Liga Malaysia, and then for Europe we have EPL, and for the World Cup we have the World Cup as in. So if you are the best player in Malaysia, you got A+ for your football skill. When you go to the Europe EPL, perhaps your skill, your A here is not the same as A football skill as in EPL. So perhaps in Malaysia you are A player, but there your skill is like C+. So this is something basically that we can help you to walk through what CEFR is. So CEFR is a standard, it's a global framework that actually gives you a standard evaluation how your language skill is. And it is not only for English language, and it's also applied for foreign language. So there are 5 reasons. I want you to know that there are 5 reasons why CEFR works the best. And I'm so happy that our policymakers, our education system is very progressive. We have a lot of we are very progressive in actually making our curriculum always updated and through the global pace. So there are 5 things that we need to know why CEFRs are good. First, with CEFR, it provides a much clearer picture of what someone is at a given level is capable of doing. So we are evaluating you with what you can do at which level. So if B1, you should be able, everyone in the world will know that what is your capability. Number 2, it can be easily understood and interpreted at the same time by users everywhere around the globe. Which country you're going to, you take CEFR with you, the certificate, Japan, Europe, Canada will be the same. So a B1 learner in one school should be, in principle, should be able to do basically everything the same thing as B1 learner in another school or even in the country. So this is what we want to, we really appreciate that. This is something that I think really beneficial to the students and as well as the teacher. And then I said the third one is it's 30 years of research. How can you deny anything about that? It's a credible benchmark. And that's why there's another good thing about CEFR. And even though it's originated from in Europe, CEFR is recognized in more than over than 40 countries in the world, and currently used not only in Europe, it's used in other countries including Mexico, Vietnam, Japan, China, and others. So those international high stakes tests like IELTS, TOEFL, and TOEIC, they are currently aligned with CFR, and this is exciting because we can see that perhaps CEFR can be in future they can be hearing that CFR can be a set of evaluation kind of will have the same bar as IELTS it is today. So this is what we want you to understand. And in explaining about this, I would like to bring up the misconception, the common misconception that we have, because I think it is vital for us to understand. We don't want to just, short sendiri to tell what CEFR is, but this is because it is quite new, and I know that many of our students or teachers or teacher trainers are still having difficulty understanding what CEFR. Number one, I would like to know that there's the first misconception that we always have is CFR is not a reform plan. It is a framework. So CFR and reform plan are it's not the same thing. So roadmap that we have now is an entire reform plan. You have the three waves of that, but CFR is a big role that actually is a reference of a roadmap, which a roadmap draw the best available idea about what language teaching and learning is. So CEFR become the reference for our roadmap to go in. So that's how I want us to understand what the difference between CEFR and also the reform plan. Number two, the misconception that we have. People think that CFR is an exam. No, it's not. It's actually the basic measurement. It provide the basis, the basic understanding. How can I measure your language proficiency? If I were to see your certificate, B1 level, I immediately will know that, oh, you're good at this and that. You're capable of interacting with theories. You're capable of writing, understanding complex sentences and all that. So there's a lot of tick this on you being a B1 user. As we compare it to the old one, we used to have people got A. So A is a bit vague. What kind of A, quality of A is. So for it is as measuring. It just for us to measure your ability in that language skill. So. And this is what we are adapting to our schools as well as university. So this beyond school, there are a number of major international exams, as I said now, that corresponds their mark, their exams to the CEFR level. So it's not an exam. It's just a measure. Macam temperature lah, macam thermometer. You want to measure you're having a fever. So you have your temperature and check the level. So that's how it is. Okay. And the third misconception is CEFR is a type of English. I think I did have this when I first learned about CEFR, but I had to go through. I have received the training and the workshop from the master trainer. So there we understand that it's not just English. It is actually, there are several Englishes in the world, such as British English, American, and all that. But there is no such thing as CEFR English or European English. So CFR merely just describe what a learner can do with a language, and this bring to the next misconception that we think that students proficiency or anyone's proficiency is evaluated against the native speaker. We do not evaluate how you mirror the native speaker, but we evaluate the quality of the content of your language skill, the grammar, the vocabulary, how you speak. So you should be able to produce comprehensible and intelligible English. So you are not expected to sound like native speaker. So if you're Terengganu or Kelantan or Kedah, you can have the originality of your own dialect, but you still sound like the way I'm speaking now. I don't mirror to any native speaker. I speak the way I speak, Malaysian way. So, but we want to measure how well you can interact using the language. So that's about it. And just for your information, for schools, for school leavers, for CFR, we are competent. We target students to achieve B1 level when they leave the schools. So B1 level means that you are expected to be able to speak, to handle the situation like speaking to a terrorist. You can produce simple sentences connected. Topic that are related to your personal interest. So you should be able to have the ability to talk about things like that. And the ones in university, we target students to achieve like at least like B2 level. So this is where you should be able to understand more complex texts. You should be able more handle more abstract topics or technical discussion, jargon, and to interact comfortably with native speaker. So I do hope that illustrates the idea very well. And yeah, that's about so far. So back to the moderator.
Indeed. Indeed, it's a very, thorough explanation, and it's quite interesting when you say that it took almost 30 years. A lot of effort has been made there. And I have another question about that, but we'll come to you later, Ms. Atika, about the framework of CEFR. And talking about, 30 years, a lot of effort there. And however, when you want to bring the concept of a common European framework into the Malaysian context, I can say that according to a survey conducted by Ministry of Education itself, there are still teachers that are not familiarized with CEFR because it is not that easy. It is not. It is not that easy, to adapt with that kind of a new framework, and that is why I would like to ask our second panelist for today. Okay, Ms. Atika Nori, as someone who you are a master trainer or jurulatih utama in terms of familiarization and the curriculum induction of CEFR. So, how will you address the problem to ensure that all teachers, are familiarized and have a standard, thorough understanding of the CEFR curriculum?
Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning, everyone. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, okay, so basically, whatever that I'm going to share is what I had, my own experience, my own personal experience going here and there, different states and different school, different district, different JPN, in cascading whatever content that the CFR I have gained from the CFR bengkel and seminars. So my own experience, obviously can see there are a lot of issues, especially once I'm at the top, meaning here when I presenting at the kebangsaan, and then when I go down to my own school. So when I go to my own school, after I go to my own school, I went to my district. So when I see this shifting among institutions, obviously the gap is there, and I realize it whenever I go to different district or whenever I go to different state. Okay, but I am not here to blame any side of the parties or any stakeholders, but this is again I solely my own experience. Okay, all right. So according to my own experience, whenever I get we master trainers get from the head up there, for example the LTAP people, the LPM, the CFR Sifu herself, meaning the Mat Saleh people. CFR for me honestly is quite easy if we think different skill, different skill, different skill, different skill, and you have to have an open mind. And I believe that the problem is when the master trainer, okay, I'll be like categorize it. Problems number one is actually on the school when you address to different or all teachers, because you mentioned all teachers in Malaysia to understand the CFR curriculum. So the master trainer, they would go to different state, but right now they are going to different district. So different district, different state, they handle it differently. So some district, for example, in my own experience in Kembangan district, whenever that we master trainers have any courses with the LTAC or LPM, they will call us and they will ask us to tell them what's going on. This is the problem here. Some district, they don't do that. When I know about this, because there are some of my friends, they change into different district or different state, they said that they didn't get any information. Meaning here in Malay, they said pencairan maklumat from the master trainer themselves. So in my district, the SIC Plus especially, kudos to my SIC Plus in Kemaman, ask us. They just call and, okay, AT, did you get anything? What can you share with us? Sometimes they will call other master trainers from different district to join in the discussion. So when that happened, all these master, because what I believe and what I can see throughout my experience, all master trainers are very dedicated. Master trainer in the kebangsaan, doesn't matter in kebangsaan or district level or state level, they are very dedicated. They really want to share this thing. However, it only happens if there is a program or a sharing session. Then only the pencairan maklumat will happen. There wouldn't be pencairan maklumat like that, something like that. So if there is no such thing program like that happening in any of the district, then most teachers in that particular state or district, to be precise, they will get to know the whatever new information. The information that we're talking about maybe in the sense of curriculum induction. For example, the SPM students, for example, for Form 4 and Form 5. Let's say I have been to one for Form 4 curriculum induction solely for that Form 4. They'll take the exact textbook for Form 4. They teach how to teach for particular teams and also particular lesson. So imagine if all teachers are representing from each school in that district, if they go to that particular program, of course they would know, okay, for example, for this team 1 environment, we want to make sure that the student achieve B1 or B2. This is how the example of how you can teach. And imagine if that happened in all levels, in all states, there wouldn't be the problem of not being familiarized is not that much. Okay, we have to accept that in some places as well, it's very difficult to go, like for example in rural areas, right? We have to accept that. But in majority, I'm talking about majority places that you can go, like for example, because I have a friend who stayed in, I think, in the city, but she mentioned that she did know, because she just transferred for about 6 or 7 months, she didn't get any information about the new, for example, new way of marking. When you say about marking, I mean the rubric, explaining how the relationship between the rubric of certain parts in the exam paper linked with the CFR. That one has to be conducted by a master trainer or anyone in particular with LPM people that has linked with CFR. If there is no such thing happening in the district or state, then it will be a problem. So the role of number 1 is the how to address this, I would say, to the PPD people, the district. Number 2, because I've seen the PPD, they didn't really receive any instruction from JPN. It's their own initiative. The letter is coming from all the PPD themselves. Some even, like for example, people in, let's say in my place, in Kuala Terengganu, let's say, the PPD there once quite active, so they can come up with a JPN, what do you call it, a state activity or state discussion. For example, in my place, we have this pembina module. So most of the people there are from the Master Training CFR. So that's why I believe that in Terengganu, we are quite well linked. Our information about the CFR or examination format, the way we mark, the marking system for SPM also are well linked, because our JPN, our PPD, they work well together. Especially whenever they know that the teachers in the district or in the JPN, in the state, going for the any pentaksiran bengkel in the upper level, they will call us back. Okay, that is number 1. Number 2, my school itself, where whenever that I go for bengkel, when I come back, my head of panel, this is the role of head of panel, and also ketua, what do you call that?
Ketua
sure what is the word.
bidang.
Thank you. So there's ketua bidang, sorry, because happen to be ketua bidang in my school is English teacher. Thank you. So they would do, obviously she will do PLC. This is the attitude. For me, is the environment of the head of panel itself. Whenever we got, because in my school there are 2 master trainers, different for different purpose. One is for pentaksiran. So whenever she comes back, we would do 30 minutes of PLC. Simple as that. Okay, whatever you learn, can you give me a brief? Can you give us share a brief one item? PLC doesn't need to be tick and dance. No, no need. For example, she would say, okay, we are going to look at writing skill, part 3. For example, SPM paper, writing, part 3. This is the rubric and this is how they do. If you want to, for example, like that, 30 minutes. So that's why we are keep updating ourselves with this. I believe that one last thing. Okay, those teachers. One of the problems that I think that might be there after the cascading. The teachers who went for the cascading, once they go back to their school, they don't tell. That is the problem. They might say, okay, I really don't understand what's going on in the session. I don't have the materials, blah, blah, something like that. Okay, I have this, meaning here, I have been there, meaning listening to a master tailor and listening and giving a banker to teachers. I've been in both roles. I understand when some teachers say that they don't understand when some master trainer explaining stuff. I believe that because, again, some master trainers are being forced. You have to understand that. And some teachers going for the cascading also being forced. So when you are being forced doing something, obviously you can't get the whole of it. So by right, you have, whenever that you go for cascading, you have to, you go back to school and then you disperse the knowledge, right? But it won't happen if the attitude of the teachers is going for the master training, for the master training. So I think that would be all. I hope that you guys understand how to address, this problem with familiarization. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Atika. As I mentioned earlier, because this seminar is, in hope, we hope that not only we gain something, but there is an action from the higher ups. Because it is very interesting when you mention that each and everyone has their own role, right? To the district itself and the school itself, the ketua bidang panitia, and the teacher itself.
Yes.
Because talking about familiarization, this is something new, and you want to bring this concept to your students. How are we going to bring, or how are we going to strive for better education? We talk about striving for better education, but in fact, there's the action from the higher ups are not how would I say, not well enough, or maybe not enough.
They didn't do follow up. You mean like that?
They didn't do follow up. So maybe hopefully someone, if there's someone from who are joining us for today.
Okay.
So hopefully there is an action for that. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much, Ms. Atika. I do have a further question, but I will ask later, inshallah. So moving on to our third speaker, Brother Kamal. Okay, brother. I want to ask that as someone who involves during the early stage of CEFR implementation, can you take us through what happened back then compared to now? Do you see any significant changes? Because according to Ms. Atika just now, the familiarization, the teacher might be familiarized, but when they go to the training and everything, but when they go back to school, it's either they don't deliver the context, or they don't really understand what is going on. So maybe perhaps in terms of acceptance, knowledge, and the familiarization itself.
Thank you, Sister Ainul. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Because I just came back to my hometown, so the coverage is not really as in KL, but I'll try my best, and I hope people can understand me well. Just like Miss Atika just now, I'm sharing something that is very close to me in a way that is genuinely and personal experience as teachers, as master trainers for my district, and also panelists in making assessment for students. At the same time, interestingly, I think this is also worth mentioning because it has something to do with my background. First and foremost, as teachers, we have our own belief, what we want to do with education and things like that. And then my first belief before I become a teacher is I really want to involve in assessment. And alhamdulillah, I got it. In the span of 9 years, I involved in Linus instruction. Then I also involved in UPSR. I am very thankful for the opportunities. And then back in my study days, when I took TESOL degree, my minor is also in children's contemporary literature. So when I come back to Malaysia, I was very surprised to see the development of this new content into our system, which is anthology of poems, and then we have short stories for primary school, because we used to have this thing in KSSM. Worth noting also to everyone that I teach primary school, so my content of speaking might be different from both of our speakers. In primary school, we have a completely different issues because we are dealing with literacy level of students, and then things were more basic, but a lot of challenges that I think need to be addressed. Okay, coming back to the question of significant changes throughout the year, and then in terms of acceptance, knowledge, and familiarization itself. Okay, in 2016, teachers were called for familiarization course, and then this involved quite a large number of teachers. I think probably 80%, I would say, because familiarization is something that needs to be dispersed to every English teachers, not only to those who are specifically teaching for each level. And then, so for the first time that they introduced us to CEFR, they have familiarization course, and also they have the induction course. So in 2017, it begins with year 1, and then 2018 for year 2, 2019 for year 3, year 4 for in 2020, 2021 for year 5, and then 2022 for year 6, which is our current year now. So assuming if UPSR is not cancelled, we should see CFR induced into our UPSR. But God knows better, in a way it was cut off. UPSR is cancelled. This is something personal to share, because my role as a panelist in LPM was highly discreet. People really don't know, and I can't really talk about it, because that's something that I can share. When the higher level decided to stop UPSR, I was literally having a meeting at that moment, constructing a question, when this people, ministry, and everyone at the top management level in KPM were having a meeting to decide whether to continue or not. You see, this is the, I wouldn't say a problem. I would say a challenge and a difficulty that I think I cannot comprehend why teachers are we as a panelist have constructed question, but still you are not giving us something that is very absolute in making a decision in policy. And then when I come back a month later, we got to know it through online that UPSR is cancelled. And then imagine all the hard work we're doing for about a year. But the thing is, we sort of knew, and our officer mentioned that the possibility of it being cancelled is there. So we just did something to do with content. Because there were already a meeting between the Cambridge from the Cambridge people and also KPM. So the content, if I were to share, first of all, there was no literature part in exam, for primary school. There's only 4 skills. The literature was not tested in a way. But that was back then, in 2020, I forget, because it's just very recent. But now there is already something else. That's how fast the thing changes in our education system. And then now that I continue my masters, they called me to get involved in this new system from LPM, which involves many teachers. I have to say no because of I cannot be a master trainer at the same time studying. It was not allowed. So I really have no idea what is happening. But I see now people who went through this course is no longer as discreet as myself. You know, the teachers are allowed to share, probably because a form of assessment more to classroom-based assessment, which related to PBD lah. Okay. And going back to your questions, first changes is a textbook. You know, we have a Supermind for year 1 and year 2. They're sharing a textbook, and then we have a different textbook for year 4, year 3, year 5, and year 6. Completely different textbook with different names. Okay, that is the first changes. I have to say it out loud that I do not like the fact that year 1 and year 2 are sharing a textbook. You know, they're using the same textbook. They just divided to 8 topics, to 4 topics, 4 topics, 4 topics for year 1 and 4 topics for year 2. I feel like as a teacher, this is something that tells me that the ministry is not ready. Why are we sharing textbook? You know, that's the first thing. Because I think I'm more biased in a way because I'm a teacher. And it's also interesting in school, I'm also PK pentadbiran. Saya PK 1 di sekolah. And then the second changes when we speak about textbook is also related to content. Content-wise, briefly, I would like to touch something. Content is something else. You know, when I speak about content in CEFR, there's already things in my mind like gobbling and mixed up together because it was completely different. Because I had the chance to teach KSSR before CEFR were implemented, and I can see the difference. And then content-wise, it was simplified nicely, but the thing is, maybe I'm type of person who's more organized in a way that I feel the previous textbook were more can be relatable to the students. Not only that, it's also nicely organized in a way that for teachers to refer to one by one, to teach one by one for the students. But again, when this comes to us as a teachers, we have to be open in a way, you know, to changes and things like that. That's normal as part of our professional development. Having said that, I still feel like they could have done something better in a way that they were more prepared with the content, which eventually now going to 2025 akan ada semakan yang baru sebenarnya. Akan ada semakan baru, which I also have no idea yet what to say because that should be a person who is working with bahagian pembangunan kurikulum lah, PPK person should know. I'm more involved with Lembaga Peperiksaan Malaysia, Malaysian Examination Syndicate, and normally curriculum first and then assessment comes later. And then some changes instead. Second changes is content. Something that worth noting for everyone here, there is no phonetic, there's no phonetic lesson in year one because the previous textbook, they have phonetic lesson. And then the thing is, this phonetic lesson is not only helpful for the students, it's also helpful for the teachers. Because what happened in school, we have way bigger problem than this, that we are lacking of English teachers. We have to ask a non-optionist teachers who is not major in English to teach. So when this thing is happening, these teachers sometimes they need, non-option, they need really ample of support from school, from PPD, from everyone, because they don't learn like myself as an English teacher back in university. And suddenly when you have to teach English in school, if you were to put yourself in their shoes, you can sense there are going to be some sort of struggle or problem with the face, And then, so when there is no phonetic lesson, if the teachers is already have a background of phonetics, having to teach a student who needs this phonetic lesson, so you will know that the problem which will arise. And then that is the first problem with the second changes, which is content. The second problem is the grammar lesson. Sorry if my word is too strong with problem. I say challenge. The second challenge is no grammar lesson. When we are entering from previous textbook, year 3, they start to introduce in textbook grammar lesson. Even though we teach, depending on teacher, sometimes they teach directly, sometimes they use in other lessons for previous, before CFR. So suddenly when year 3 begin to get changes with CFR, there was no direct grammar lesson. Then grammar lesson is induced in all the skills. And this, as a teacher, I feel like this is also one of the challenges part, because I feel like back when I was teaching year 3 and year 4 and year 5, I use both approach, directly introducing them to the topic and also induce them into the lesson. Don't go suddenly induce them into the lesson. I feel like it's just my personal preferences of teaching in a way. So as teachers, there were challenges there. There were challenges to teach grammar lesson. And again, this is also a challenge for non-option teachers. Okay, the third change is structure. The structure is also related to the second one, which is no phonetic lesson for level 1, which is year 1, year 2, and year 3, and then no grammar lesson directly for year 1, year 2, year 4, year 5, and year 6. Okay, the third changes is structure, and then the fourth changes is assessment itself. This assessment is already begin when I was dealing with Linus. I think not everyone is familiar with Linus. Linus is literacy. It's not an assessment. It's a screening test. Literacy screening test for numeracy and literacy. Untuk matematik, bahasa Melayu dan juga bahasa Inggeris lah. To see their level.
Is it?
To see their level. Yes, betul. And please remind me if I exceed the time. I will try to wrap up before anything happen. Okay, so Linus, and then what happened along the way, Linus, they scrapped off Linus pula in 2000, I think late 2019. So you see how many changes, walaupun I was with them 5 years, there was so many changes that happening. It was so frustrating because for me, Linus is also a good diagnostic test to trace down literacy problem. And then it goes back to having schools administrators to find an assessment. They call it plan pula. Dia tak pakai Linus dah. Dia pakai plan. PLAN. Itu another set of challenges which is related to literacy. Now, if itu Linus, when they cancel Linus, imagine cancelling Linus and then replacing with other thing else, and then simultaneously it's happening. It's also issues related to content, because when I was dealing with Linus pun, it's already bila construct items too, you were fighting, between panelists. What happened between panelists, when we get together, we were given a task to do questions. Normally, you take this construct, you take this construct, this construct, and then after building item, we present it to everyone, and then we argue with each other. So normally, I myself, as who's teaching in some sort of semi-rural, I would say, in Temelloh, sekolah kampung, I have my say. Things like content. As an example, if you would put sushi, the word sushi, or whatever that the student is not familiar, I will definitely say no. I will definitely say no. That this thing cannot be. This word cannot be in our question, because my student don't know what sushi is. in a sense. This is the things that we do, the process that it takes us through for assessment. And it's the same thing happen when we're doing UPSR for CEFR. But now, because the content CEFR was so high that it's a challenge for us. Though I have to partially agree with Ms. Atika, CEFR was very straightforward and easy. But the main question, rhetorical question to answer is, our teachers ready? That's the thing. And so it goes back to being supportive from school administrators, from the PM itself, from the PPD, from the JPN. And then I think they have to be a system, because we have no problem with receiving the content. We have to have a system how to disperse this knowledge to make sure it's systematically approached to everyone, from pegawai PPD, pegawai JPN, to teachers and to students eventually. They have to assess that too, not only assessing the understanding of teachers, but assessing that the system that they use to disperse this new knowledge to teachers. So in terms of acceptance, it's annual issue, because when you have year 1, year 2, different teachers for each year going to this course, and then so this is when you have repetitive issues, coming from different teachers, because it was not done in a large group, or it was not being dispersed evenly. So the issue is becoming an annual thing. I have my teachers coming back every year complaining about same thing, because I'm also the ketua panitia. Jadi kuasa betul saya kan, semua saya. Fikir satu pun saya, penelitian saya. Sebabnya saya seorang je guru bahasa Inggeris dalam sekolah sebenarnya. So, I went out from my school, you imagine the reality. Teacher year 1, yang kena ngajar year 1 cikgu BM, yang ngajar year 3 cikgu sains, yang ngajar year 4, year 5 cikgu matematik. Sampai sekarang tak ada English teachers in my school. So I think that's from me. I hope it's enough as of this question. If you have any more questions, you can ask later. Thank you.
All right. I'm very happy to see all this information we have today. And that's for our first session for today. We have 2 more sessions, where for the first question, Ms. Tika Aznan talked about the concept of CEFR, and where we have the concept of native like speaker. It's not like how you are going to talk the way of English native speaker, but more like how you comprehend the grammar and everything. But that's addressing what Brother Kamal has said just now, like there's no inclusion of phonetics, there's no inclusion of grammar as a main context, but instead the inclusion of grammar are all in the 4 skills, 4 main language skills, which are speaking, reading, listening, and speaking. So how, at the end, how are they going to evaluate this kind of thing, whether or not they achieve the native flight speaker that CEFR has targeted? Right, we have several interesting comments here before we proceed to our second session. Let me read one from teacher Shaima maybe. Hold on. It's a lot. All right, teacher Shaima, I see one of the comments. It's actually not that new. It's been in our curriculum for 6 years. Yes, of course, several of the speakers also mentioned we have to be open. We have to be open-minded in terms of accepting this new concept, so that we are all, get more familiar with it. But another thing is that we are open. Of course, we are open to the concept of CEFR, but also we have to look at the acceptance of our students. the context of CEFR, as Brother Kamal mentioned just now, KSSR, KSSM and KSR are more relatable and are more near towards the Malaysian background of knowledge of our students. So what are the comments? This one. I myself have only been to one course regarding CEFR in 6 years, and the jurulatih utama at my district, no need to mention which one, had one day to help us understand CEFR. So it ended up being a touch and go session. But we cannot blame or be dependent on others. We need to research and learn about it daily. All right, thank you so much. All right, I would like to remind the speakers for the second and third session, each speaker will have 5 to 7 minutes to share their thoughts. Okay. Our second question today is for Miss Atika binti Aznan. Now, Miss Atika, just now you mentioned that this is one of the misconception that you mentioned earlier, that it is CEFR is not a reform work, but it is a framework. So, as mentioned, CEFR is supposed to work as a framework. However, looking at the context, it looks like we are being colonized all over again. Why did I say like that? Let's take, for example, when you want to introduce festivals to Malaysian students. In CEFR, they are talking about Halloween, they are talking about Thanksgiving, and they're talking about St. Patrick's Day, which doesn't match our background knowledge at all. So, and another thing is that you can teach all those to those in who are in cluster schools, urban area, but what about those in rural area? What is the solution to this, and what is your take on this issue, Miss Atika?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 5 to 8 minutes. It's a question that takes, I don't think I will do it justice when I just can give you a brief explanation to that. But this is something, our discussion that we have today, there's no textbook, there's no reference based on our experience. So this is something that we'd love to have share with our friends, teacher friends and colleagues. It's not the reform plan, it's not a framework. It is a framework. When I say that, we need to understand that CFR is our framework, our reference. The problem here, the CEFR is great, but implementation, not that so. So I want you to focus on, let's not distract ourselves like blaming CFR. This is not a play game. Of course, we are discussing this and that, but I would like all of us to understand CFR is the reference. We are adopting this reference to our own in learning English. Learning English. And the problem here, I love that we have sisters Atika Nori and Brother Kamal saying playing this role as school leaders at school, because these issues are real. The way it's implemented, I have to say, unfortunately, is very poor. We can say that it's rushing. It is rushed. I even have the textbook with me. Like you see, like the this is the textbook for Form 4 and Form 5. Okay, the English download. Okay, we don't. This is Form 5. Okay, so this is something that we even get the textbook. I would like to let you to inform you. The problem is not a software; it's an implementation. We only get the Form 5 textbook a year later. How can you? Let's talk about how rushed it is. It is not a base. It is printed. It is produced. This one is from Singapore, but Form 4 full blast. I think the content is all printed and produced in United Kingdom. So we are adopting their textbook. If we want to make sure that we really adapt the CEFR in our own reference, we should have actually produced our own textbook, translating this CFR into our own culture, into our own reference, which is something closer to her. The thing is, I can conclude that the textbook, the materials, the mere reference that we have in school, it is totally detached from reality. Kalau kita nak ajar macam, fortunately, I am a teacher who's been teaching in rural areas for the longest time. So I'm someone who have been teaching. We have the same problem. We are lacking in Terengganu. I'm teaching in a rural area institute Terengganu. It's a worldwide problem. It's a national problem. We don't have enough teachers. Some of the teachers, we have to actually impart the teachers who are not trained in teaching English to teach English for students. And imagine having them to adopt and to teach CEFR without having any understanding. Even the teachers themselves don't have this full understanding. So cultural the content of textbook, this is something that we want to talk about. We do appreciate that. We want to educate. This is gearing toward the 21st century. We want to have the global competence. CEFR, one of the purposes is fulfilling the requirement of sustainable development goal number 4, which is quality education. We want to have that. We want to have a quality education, and this is what we're going towards to. However, sadly, the aspiration that we have, even in Malaysia, we are aspiring to be the top global leaders in education in 2030, I think. So we have the aspiration, but unfortunately, in the term of implementation, it's very poor. And we are not criticizing. We, as Brother Kamal have said, it has to be organized. You have to be stretched full out, because we talk about the energy, the one who doing the cascading, the content wise, how it is relatable to our culture. I'm not blaming that we shouldn't learn the culture from others. I want to make it clear that we are the global citizens. We want to appreciate the cultures from others, but in order for us to do that, we need to be able to understand our own culture and relate them to our own. And in undergoing when they have this training to teachers, the points mentioned before by Sister Miss Atika Nori and Brother Kamal, it's really true. We have this grandeur plan, whatever that we want to do, but the cascading process of the period, there are 3 problems. Number 1 is a very limited time frame. It's a very short period of training. And number 2, the diluted information, knowledge, information about CEFR from the top down, from the top leaders to the down. The top down means the top down information means that the one who deliver information, the leaders, and then to the teachers. So as we have those well versed in CEFR, they are passing down the knowledge. So this knowledge are passing down to those teachers who should give the training to fully understand the concept. And those attending the seminars or the training, because not all of the teachers are going there. Okay, some of the teachers are, let's say they are non-optionists, they are not called for the training. Okay, so these teachers who are attending the training, when they don't have this thorough, they don't have enough time, ample time to understand. Imagine 1 week, I think 3 days course, and then you need to understand the syllabus for Form 4 and Form 5 completely. It's madness, isn't it? Even for us to understand the simple concept, it takes years. So this is what we have the problem at the time. And then the diluted information, when they will pass it down, when you don't really have the full grasp of understanding how it's passing down, how can we understand, implement the textbook in the way that we can understand? After years of doing the textbook, then I can relate. How can I talk about the culture, Thanksgiving, St. Patrick, Halloween to my students in a way that the rural students can understand? To be honest with you, these names sound foreign to my students. Pelajar kita ni, yang pelajar luar bandar ni, untuk mereka faham culture sendiri pun, pesta bulan pun, they don't understand. They are not exposed.
True.
Let alone to have this one. And we are competing. It's like a rat race, you know. It is quite a madness in school, and there are too many to catch up. So teachers, they do have the initiative, they do have the plan. And even though they try to macam, okay lah, anak I tak faham Halloween ni apa, let's talk about something relatable to our own culture, our own tradition. Contohnya pesta bulan ke, or Thanksgiving, kesyukuran. So those that we can match. However, poor execution of implementation of CEFR, how we should execute the textbook, how we should adapt and adopt the textbook. teachers do not have enough information, do not have knowledge. So it's not that teachers are not competent or they're being lazy. If people just simply, cikgu malas buat kerja. No, we have to understand that clearly there's so much going on. Semua yang dicita-citakan oleh pihak atas mahu disampaikan, dilaksanakan oleh guru dengan segera. This is not fast food tau, chain. Dah buat, okay, siap, we want to see result, we want to give result. So this is something that we want to stress about you about. I think I said the time. And the last thing about...
No, I just want to talk about that. We didn't even mention about the workload that teachers have nowadays.
See, so yeah. We are actually highlighting again for those if you are in the system or in the ministry, this is not we are blaming or not. We are looking for the loopholes because this is human work. There's always way to improve. We want to see the betterment of the program. So the last thing about the implementation of CEFR that I see is a major issue for all of us is that we do not get enough support. When I say enough support, is that support so emotionally when we need to take time to address that, and then for the school leaders who actually can support us, give us time to go to the making our own seminar, having the time to make our own seminar, training the teachers, and the last one is that it should be sustained. I won't say that it shouldn't be one-off training. It should be sustained. It should be a series of workshop. 3 hari kerja, then you give it this thick, very thick, all the bahan, material. Lesson plan semua ada bagus, alhamdulillah. But it need to be. It's not cannot be just semua nak masuk dalam 1 hari. It should be like phases. It should be stretched for 2 or 3 years of teachers having to go macam pergi kursus pendek lah, because it is serious stuff. CEFR is good, but the poor implementation and poor what you say that I'm gonna say poor. There are a lot of room of improvement, and I want to share. Sebab saya mengajar dekat Terengganu, there's one program tau. I can relate to sometimes the perayaan Thanksgiving, St. Patrick, Halloween, and all that. In Terengganu, there is a program that we have with UKM. We have to publish the textbook. This is a supplementary material for teaching. Maksudnya bahan tambahan teks untuk pelajar sekolah untuk Pantai Timur ni. The UKM produce the material, the textbook. It's excellent work. And the tajuk is Your Language, My Culture. The content of the textbook is that they talk about the culture, the local culture of Terengganu, making kopok leko, making nasi dagang, and how they use this localized content. It's a localized content. I am very impressed with that because it's from Form 2 materials. But I told the teacher, can I use it for my Form 4 and Form 5 because it's super interesting, because we can do a lot of projects, we can have to a lot of things we can go, because students, when they talk about the culture, they're super excited. And with this understanding, and when they're excited about their culture, they have the understanding, they will be excited to learn about culture from others. And this is why we can actually train students to be the global competent student. So we want them to know the culture of the world, but it have to start with our own first. So that's one thing I can do. And for rural students, kesian lah, diorang not only dah kita dah macam dah deprived in a lot of infrastructure pun kurang, internet pun tak ada, line pun nak buka Google Map pun susah, and then the student punya motivation untuk belajar benda sendiri, the basic one pun susah, let alone you want to ask them to go for the difficult one. It's not just cikgu boleh terus ajar. We need teacher to be trained, to be taught how can we implement this to our students so that they don't feel left behind, they tak rasa demotivated, and they don't feel that they are detached, they don't feel that they're stupid. This is the most important. Kalau teacher kita bodoh, teacher kita tak boleh belajar, kita tak pandai benda-benda gini, we don't want students, we want to empower students with the language. We don't want to deprive them, because we are the power one here. We need to help them. They are the powerless. So these are the power that we are channeling to our students to make sure that they enjoy the learning before they want to master the language. So that's my take on it. Okay. I hope it will help you to answer the question perhaps, inshallah.
Yes. And I would like to read one comment here from Shahazwan Yusuf. He said the same goes to me. I am non-optionist majoring in PJK and having been forced to teach English ever since my first posting. In my experience, I would always have issue teaching listening skills. I do believe that the example used for the audio part of the CEFR book are all foreign to my students, as they are using native speakers of English in their audio transcription. If they were to use a more local example with Malaysian speakers and the contexts are more localized, it will serve better. And also there's one another comment from Encik Muhammad Ismail Zulkifli, said that the Superminds textbook, just a guidance. So it depends on us to adopt and adapt to our lesson as long as it adheres to the SKP given. Now, I heard that, sometimes you cannot just use your, I'm not really sure, maybe someone, Ms. Hatika can answer. You cannot really use your own contact, because otherwise there will be someone who come and evaluate and all that. So, is that true?
What do you mean by content? Can you please, I didn't get your question.
The Superminds textbook, just a guidance. It means that CEFR is there, just a guidance. So it depends on the teachers to adopt and adapt to our lesson as long as it adhere to the SKP given. So
Sure,
maybe
yeah, true. I mean, since even like we have the textbook as the main reference, even with the old syllabus, KSSR, KSSM, we have textbook as a guidance. So bukan, but I have to say I love our textbook even more, the older one, because I still remember how they captured everything. That's how good they are, because it's written by local people. Macam textbook for this one, I nak bagi tahu you lah, satu page I want to talk about go-kart. Okay, so some student go-kart ke apa teacher? Go-kart tu, like we don't know, like just looking at the ada tak nampak, look at the pictures, then they only can see. But the mastery of the language, the vocabulary, sometimes it's too hard for them. So teachers actually, in order for us to help student to help deliver the session supaya tak jadi short sendiri kan. I dah ajar tapi budak-budak tak faham pun. Dia macam cikgu tu short sendiri. We don't want that, but in order for us to understand, we need a lot of preparation, training. Yes, we can adapt, but how? Cuba aja cikgu-cikgu yang bukan optionist. One thing is not like the grammar part is. I like the grammar part. I like the exercises. The context wise is okay. I don't say something is bad, but some of the content for the students who are struggling learners I'm talking about, they feel that it's detached from them. So this is where we need to adapt. Macam perkataan yang macam vocab yang tak guna tu kan. So this is the concern that we have, and adapt is okay, but how well, we want to know. Kita boleh cakap adapt and adopt, okay, buat how? Bila PPD tanya pun, adapt lah cikgu buat. Kalau kita tanya dia balik, how? Cuba cikgu ajar saya. Bukan kita nak menindakkan. Cuba macam mana, how can we do that in an easy manner, when baru nampak, this is the way ke, macam tu. Right. The burden, the responsibility is too big on our side. We have to think everything. Cikgu fikirlah, cikgu kan pandai.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Agree. All to blame the teachers. Alright, thank you so much, Ms. Atika binti Aznan. Now, since we are running out of time, okay, I would like to move on to our next speaker, Ms. Atika binti Nori. Now, I would like to make a bold statement here. Like, there was some confusion actually. Okay, they say that literature was taken out from CEFR, but eventually there are literature parts in the textbook called literature in action. Okay, and I have friends that during their practical, when they go to the school, they were told not to teach literature, but they did eventually because they enjoy teaching literature, and they think that it's very important to teach personification, simile, metaphors, and all that. So can you enlighten us about that, Miss Atika?
Okay, all right. Okay, 7 minutes, yeah? All right, okay. So can you go first slide up there? Okay, sorry, this is the slide, right? Okay. Now, we all have to have some sort of understanding on adopting CFR in our system. Now, I did ask this one question to the Mat Saleh people the first time when I did discuss grading. So I said, so what's on the table now? One, we have adopting this, and then they said, okay, we are going to have a new textbook. in the textbook, the topics and the theme have to be, according to the CFR. Number 2, we are going to look at the DSKP. The SKP means in English we call as the Standard-Based English Language Curriculum. Some people know as SBELC. We teachers can panggil the SKP, right? The SKP is going to change in the sense of the 4 skills, including the literature in action skill. Meaning here, as you can see that in the screen, is there is one example, 5.1. So I want to emphasize here is that the literature is still in the framework. Okay. However, as you can see on the figure 3 on the right side there, you can see that the literature in action, the component is well integrated with other 4 skills, which, however, sadly, I'm not going to say sad, in reality, most teachers give a lot of emphasis on 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, because all these skills are being put in the exam papers. Now, so here you can see that this is an action taken by the MOE in collaboration with the CE to develop the SKP. Meaning here we know that the MOE still wants the literature part. The concept is the literature part is in the SKP. It's safe there, okay? However, the literature should be embedded in other 4 skills. Meaning here, if you are teaching reading, right? So you are teaching reading, let's say about, I'm talking about the content of the literature part is not from the textbook, okay? Let's say you're teaching about a story about, any poem outside from the textbook, the non-textbook material. And you want to teach it reading skill. Yes, that is what they want. Okay, the problem is the textbook, the CEFR adapted textbook, there is not specific literature text. For example, like before 2019, like Sing to the Dawn, like Dawan for Form 5, that is segregated literature content. Okay, it's like that. So the problem here, there is the teachers have to find their own literature context, literature materials, like their own poem, their own short story, comical strip. It's up to them. I'm talking about secondary here because I've marked for paper 2 SPM, which is solely on part 2 paper on novel and short story. So I can see the difference before 2019. Why before 2019? After 2019, once they fully accepted the CFR, they said, we want the students to enjoy literature content, but we are not going to test it in the exam, the big exam, meaning the SPM. And that's changed the whole thing. I hope that you guys understand it. That's changed the whole thing because it is not being assessed in the examinations. So part of that, they also, this particular Mat Saleh also said, because Malaysia treat literature as the small L. I think all teachers, sorry for non-optionists, I think the non-optionist teachers, for English teachers, they know that the idea of small L, meaning here just to enjoy the text, to expose yourself to different kind of text, but not to being assessed. So therefore, because we have a lot of things on our plates, the exam papers, we have to, get familiarized ourselves with the new formats. When I say formats, mean we have 4 papers now, especially for secondary. 4 papers. Before this, 2 papers, reading and writing. It's already tiring. Now we have listening and speaking papers, where listening now, I believe, is a big problem for SPM students. So where is the literature part section or a class or lesson should be done? So that's the point. What I'm trying to say, answering the questions here, the concept of literature in action in CFR, it is there, but where is the priority? For me personally, if I have finished covering most of my syllabus, I say most, not all, and I've done, bengkel on all papers, all skills, then only I'll go to, let my students look at some poems or short stories, to adding up their vocabularies and sentence structure, especially for those who are, choosing to write a story for their SPM paper, like novels. then only I will touch on literature. But it's safe to say that the CFR, adapting of CFR, yes, that's a part of literature in action included in the syllabus. So that's all.
All right. It means that the literature is there, but because you have to focus mainly on the four skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing, so that there are no ruang. There are not enough ruang to put in literature. It's pity enough because just to mention a few, like Shannon Ahmad, our national laureate. He's from English grammar school, but turns out he become a sastrawan negara in Bahasa Melayu. So if only we could have that back, teaching our students all this, the aesthetic value of the language itself, it would be nice. All right, thank you so much, Miss Atika. Okay, and Brother Kamal, moving on to you for the next question. As mentioned a lot before, that CEFR focuses heavily on four main language skills: reading, speaking, listening, and writing. And we know that in secondary school we have literature in action, and I understand that for primary school we have a new part called language arts. So can you walk us through that? What makes it different, or what makes it important compared to KASSR before?
Okay, thank you to our moderator. Actually, language arts is already in the syllabus before CFR was implemented. So students and teachers were familiar with language arts. The difference between language arts in KSSR and CFR is when we have CEFR, it's because I know this poems, short stories, and graphic novels. They were there before the CFR, and then when the CFR came in, it's sort of complementing each other, you know. But the whole thing, I can conclude as like Miss Atika Nori said, it's something. Same thing happened in primary school. They do not have that in context of assessment. We already decided when we are constructing the item, when we're building the item, we're not going to take contemporary literature for children into the assessment, because this is the very foundation of this. You have to go through a document in our DSKP. Contemporary children's literature component is taught during the language arts to expose pupils to different literary genres such as poems, short stories, and graphic novels. And then teachers are to explore texts of this genre to create fun-filled and meaningful activities so that people will benefit from the learning experience and gain exposure to the aesthetic use of the language. So the focus is not for assessing. That's why CE people keep saying that this is not a skill to be assessed unless it's induced in the four primary skills. The values that our Ministry of Education put, they wish the teachers to impart to their pupil predominantly appear in the CSL text and activities relating to them. So we use stories and graphic novels, and we take the whatever code we have that is suitable for our students in our classroom according to the DSKP. And then the CCL module provides opportunity for people to immerse themselves in a variety of literary works and engage them in planning, organizing, producing, and performing creative works. This will further stimulate pupils' imagination, interest, and creativity. What I did in my classroom back then was when I see my students were stressed out, or you can tell they already had enough of these four skills. What I did normally by the end of, because it's a modular, it's a thematic and modular system in our lesson planning. So normally by the end of the lesson, say on Friday or Thursday, before we end that topic, we did something to do with this contemporary CCL, contemporary children literature. Yes. I my students do what.
Brother Kamal, you are breaking up.
Can you
I think the line is not okay. Your voice is like cracking up.
hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Now it's okay.
Now okay.
Now it's
Okay.
better.
So for contemporary children literature, CCL component, is something that I use in classroom. Briefly put, that's something I did to orang kata really stress lah of my students, because I want them to have fun, because I already know it's not going to be an assessment. This is something that different from secondary school, because secondary school SPM, the stake is higher, so the teachers prioritize these 4 skills, but in primary school there's no UPSR, so I was able to prioritize both their well-being as having fun in language arts, and also incorporate these 4 skills into the lessons. And I won't check out the language arts part, because it has been there before CFR. And then I think my student, if you ask, they love language arts more than anything to compare to other 4 skills. Because that is when they can shine, and then
By enjoying, they will learn more.
can be imaginative. Yes, exactly. I emphasize on that. And then going back to all the questions before this with Ms. Atika and Atika Nori, we are open to criticize the system, I think, and the policy, because we are the one who has to carry this burden of executing everything. But like Ms. Atika Aznan said, we are open, teachers are open to challenges, but they cannot stop us for giving out our opinion in a way that we feel not what is the best for us, but knowing that they listen to us is already gave us a comfort in a way, psychologically. So when our teachers are asked to be open, we also hope that for the higher level to be more organized in that sense, But by the end of the day, we are students of life, We go through, I completely understand that when they give something new, it takes time to produce the results and it to be better in a way. And I hope that the improvement of this is ongoing, by listening to teachers, their needs, what they want, and then we could find a common ground, and we meet halfway in a way.
Yes.
So I think that's like, I hope that's answered my questions. To summarize again, to make sure that everyone is okay. I already out of time, but I already answered the question, so it should be right. Okay.
Of course, we are all hoping that someone is listening to us and will take action on this, because we don't want to keep on changing, because in another 10 years when we change our minister whatsoever, they come with a new concept. No, we don't want that.
Yes.
Let's stick to one and improve that one, right?
Yes, true.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Kamal. Right, we have come to our last session. Okay, for the third session, let's have like 3 to 5 minutes only for each speaker. Okay, for this question, I would like to ask to Miss Atika Aznan. Okay, now I understand that after, we are going to have an evaluation in 2025. Okay, the roadmap of CEFR will end in 2025. The Ministry of Education hopes to implement CEFRM. So for those who are asking what is M stands for Malaysian version. So when we say the Malaysian version, Ms. Atika, how is it supposed to be? Are we going to include back the real Malaysian context? Not saying only the festival, but maybe our favorite food instead of fish and chips. We're going to include roti canai, nasi lemak, more nearer to our students' background. Okay, and that's the first question. Second one is that, do you think literature is there but not being embedded as much as before 2019? Should it be included back in the classroom setting in this CEFR of Malaysian version?
Okay, so thank you for the long question. For the question, I want to talk about why should or shouldn't literature be included. I want to illustrate. I want to highlight you guys to understand that the importance part of literature. Bahasa itu indah. Language is beautiful. In any language, English, Malay, Arabic, or any language, there's essence of the language that makes it so beautiful, because with words of power, and with words, this is how we can change people's life. We can heal, we can feel so much with words. So, and the aesthetic part of language is that it's from arts. It's not like we want to be the carry a global pacing economy and all that stuff. Yes, but literature is a comfort, is the where we heal, where we actually we have colors. This is what people enjoy, because is where we want to students, not students but ourselves, to know that they have the powers with their writing, to own their writing, and it comes from the introduction to literature. I am from the generation, I think Atika Nori and Brother Kamal, so we are from the generation that we introduced to this long list of literature part component. I remember the dear ones that I have is How the Light Got Its Name, and Of Bunga, Telur and Belly Shoes, as well as A Life Brief Candle, among other poems. How impactful this component in our syllabus, in our English education, is that until now, this is how we talk about, we learn in Form 2 or Form 3, Form 5. Until now, we can still succinctly remember very well how great this poetry, the short stories are. Even I have this, I remember I had this dinner with my friends. We just talk about, cikgu kan kalau sembang, gosip-gosip, and then we touch about literature and all that. And we talk how we miss those times when we learn about these words, and then how funny it is, the story of Bunga Telur and Belly Shoes, and how we can actually still recite the poem Life Brief Tenders, tomorrow, and tomorrow. I mean, those memories come from the introduction of literature, and our teachers and our syllabus back then, that is how impactful they are. It forms you, it helps to shape you. And if we were to implement CFR in Malaysia, I would like to use, kita kan suka label. I don't want us to just go for the branding, because we love branding so much that we just, asalkan ada nampak gempak. We don't want that. We don't want this to be just another branding, just another form, another short-lived dream. If CFRM is going to be implemented, I hope that we want to welcome, to make sure that the contact is through Malaysia, our true, it's like our old textbook, but make it CFR. I mean, call back all the great writers of the old textbook, take them in, bring them into the team, help them, illustrate them, have these people from CEFR merge these two cultures together, and they will come up with something super powerful, which whatever they come with, I will advocate to that. So the number one. And number two, I want to emphasize about, it's nothing wrong about learning about other cultures. I want to inform all of you, I want to educate that we have to have the one of the skills that we need to have is we are the global citizens. We have to have the global competence in understanding and appreciating other culture. And we don't want to highlight, say, these cultures or differentiation of other culture is not good. But if you notice, because this textbook is, printed in Europe, UK, there's only representation of Western culture, which I'm not really comfortable about. There's not much representation of culture from the Asian countries, from Arabic, from the Africas, from the Arab countries. So from this different world. So there is no inclusion of other cultures. For example, we want to see, this is where I think when you said the colonized, where they just want to show their culture. Diorang je, macam orang yang tak ada culture kan. Where we have a lot of colorful other culture, we can learn about something about Korea, Japan, and also this Western, but they don't put any representation. But perhaps maybe it comes to the fact that it is written by the local, by the Western people, so they don't do that. So that's one thing. So I would love to have literature back in school, because even macam Brother Kamal, he said that he always use 4D. I always do that for my students, because I one thing that we want pelajar lemah ni, I'm telling you is that the one thing that I want them to know, that I want them to love the language. So they have to love me first to teach them, and also then they can love the language. So teachers play the important, because you are the duta tau. You nak make sure that they don't hate the language. One thing, they feel motivated and they feel that, oh, there's so much fun. Fun mean that they look at you with the content that you bring in the classroom. They don't say, oh, it's not about exam, because we have music in classroom. My students, because I try to accommodate to their own needs. So cultural element, the element of poetry, writing a short poem, rhyming words, so singing here and that, writing their own lyrics. So they part of the literature part, the arts part of the language. So I would love that, of course, and I think it's about time for us to bring. But how we can do it? I hope that we can have that, not only for the assessment, having each part of our exam formal assessment will be great. But talking about discussing, it's not just limited to short story, poem and stuff. But I don't know how they're going to implement it. But I do hope that we can see that the application of literature will be there if they want to apply CEFR. And I want to add some of it. We have CEFRJ, Japan. They already have their own CEFR, but I want to let you know that Japanese, the language, how they understand the language, is totally different from the rest of the world, because they're very, English is not very limitedly used in their own context. So they have come up to their own version to cater that need of their own people. So that's why they come up straight away with their own CEFR Japan, because their niche area and their concern, the issue that they have in their own culture, in their own people is totally different. So that they have immediate CEFR, which is totally different from other one. So for Malaysia, I wonder if we want to do that, how I want to do that. And I would love to see the team that do behind it, because it's going to take years of time. We don't want to macam short sendirilah come up with a good textbook. We have our own, and you can see your names here, written by someone that then we say, okay, we are in good hand. So yeah, that's about it. And hopefully,
we don't want to go all over again, with the implementation and again familiarization itself, right? So hopefully Malaysia will be able to achieve CEFRM like the Japanese.
And perhaps before I go, there's always a brighter future for Malaysia. A lot of talented people, but a lot of brilliant minds behind the education, the people in the education system, as we can see here. But it's always up there how they want to decide it, the policymakers, the ministers. So hopefully, inshallah.
Inshallah. And okay, with that we proceed to Miss Atika. We are still on CEFRM topic. So Miss Atika, I just wondering, like you involved with a lot of teachers as a master trainer. So the first question is that what is the perception when KSSR, KSSM be replaced with CEFR, with the omission of the all Malaysian context from the textbook, and also the omission of literature? Not the omission of literature, but it's not being included as before 2019. So what are the perception, the attitudes, and also what is your say on CEFRM?
Okay, all right. I'm going to treat this question into two. Can you go before that? Go back to the question. The perceptions towards the omission of the Malaysian context. Number one. So we are looking at the textbook now. Okay, in front of you right now, we have 4 textbooks. Pulse 2 is for Form 1 and Form 2. Like Brother Kamal said, they are sharing also. Form 1 and Form 2 also sharing. And then close up for Form 3, full blast is for Form 4, and download is for Form 5. Okay, now this is my own perception. No. These perceptions I gain from most teachers. Okay, now majority of the teachers who are teaching Form 1 and Form 2, absolute 100%, they don't like the textbook. Okay, because I think it was a bit rushed. The contexts are very alien. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. Meaning here negative perception. Okay, but however, for Form 3, close up, I get a lot of this, and I myself, I read a lot of comments, a few comments saying that this is what we have right now on the table. We have to make do, and we have to do the best. Because saying all this thing, and this is not good, and that we can't change, we are not the higher ups. So we have to make do things. Now for close up, apparently most teachers, including me, we like the textbook. I like the textbook. Even though the context is, yes, it's Mat Salleh context. However, the theme, yes, it's not easy to adapt and adopt, but for me, for example, I give an example for chapter 2 in Close Up. It's about food. The first picture is a very, very big hamburger in Italy. But we also have very big burger in KL. So I started off this, this chapter comparing these two burgers. And I said, do you know that this is in KL? Like Burger Lab? Like we have like Black Buns Burger, something like that. It's even more interesting. And it is actually in Malaysia. It's in KL. And then they move up to different types of food. Yes, it's Mat Salleh food, like for example, spaghetti. I literally take pictures from local restaurant. Yes, I also teach in semi-rural in Terengganu as well. So this is my own experience. They apparently know stuff like popcorn, even though some of them rarely eat popcorns, but when I show the pictures like cinema and stuff, they know stuff. And the content in this, like I said, from close up, full blast and download, why we like it, why most teachers like it, because it is very organized. Meaning here, like I said, CFR give importance in the 4 skill. In each chapter, it's already there. For reading, this is a text. For listening, speaking, the audio, the QR code is all there. Comparing to the previous, I'm not like saying that the previous textbook before KSSM is bad, no. But this is the updated book, updated content, because we have to go to the 21st century learning skill. That's the thing tau.
Yes.
Change the whole thing because we have to have this 21st century learning skill. And almost each chapter are very well organized, especially for close up. Even though, yes, the topics, a lot of chapters, but even the PPD, even JPM people, even the LPM or LTEC people would say you don't have to cover everything, because most of the chapters there would be asked, the theme, for example, science and technology, the theme will be asked in the exam papers. Okay, now I have read the comments say that yes, literature is being assessed in PPD. Now, for example, in the food chapter in Unit 2, we can just take any poem about food, all right, for reading part. While we are doing it also, while we are doing the reading part, we can actually assess on that because the skill is there, the skill CFR is there, and we just take any content to match up with the skill and test the student whether they achieve or not. The thing is about why I think most teachers like the one that I asked why they like, because the pictures are good, and then they have this QR code where they can actually just scan it, and then they give to different kind of content in the internet. I know problems with internet and stuff, it's long-lasting problem. However, also one of the reasons why they like it, even though there's no Malaysian context in the books, they give a teacher's guide for each of the topic. That is what teachers like. So you just, let's say in topic 1, how teachers can teach, you just read the instruction are there. Even though there's no Malaysian context, but the things that they know that the thing that they're teaching from the textbook will be tested in the exam. The theme is there, the vocabulary being used, the useful expressions from the textbook will be, inshallah, will be there in the text, in the exam paper as well. Okay. Now, how about the perception of the omission of literature from the CFR syllabus? Now, answering for the second part of the question, me personally, being an examiner for SPM paper, I was a bit sad because I can see the students, the Form 5 students that I have produced before the Sing to the Dawn era, the novel back then, they are being more analytical. I have to say that. Kids now, without the literature part, because they don't see, for example, the foreshadow, the foreshadow things in the novel, the personification, maybe the symbolism, talk about the symbolism of a certain event. But that is a higher level of thinking. I was a bit sad because they could actually measure out the K-BAT level whenever we do literature. So I was a bit sad. But I have tons of my friends are relieved. They are, because you know why? Some of my friends are non-optionists. You imagine, let's say, I'm an English teacher, I have to teach physics. I'll die. Straightforward. Okay, and
Yes.
it's for SPM, like for example, SPM paper. So most of my friends who are non-optionists, they feel relieved that the literature part is not being assessed. Therefore, it's not in the syllabus inside the syllabus. Meaning here, they said I wash my hand already. It's a sinful thing not to teach literature because it's not being assessed. Back then, you have to teach the novel, the short story because it's being assessed. So that would be my taking for this question. Thank you.
All right, a lot of things to consider and a lot of things to ponder too, because according to one comment here from Che Adam, he say that we need to be culturally responsive when we teach CEFR English, and also he said that, as I said earlier, textbook is just vehicle to teach the skills. We teachers are responsible to localize the contents in our context. And also, according to Ms. Atika, she said that the framework of CEFR is actually good, very good, because you are addressing the 21st century skills and everything. But then there are also parts of our where we need to, improvise a little bit, maybe because for the rural parts area and all that. Okay. For our last question for today to Brother Kamal. Okay, as mentioned before, the roadmap for CEFR will end in 2025. So, um, how are they going to evaluate when they are going to evaluate CEFR, whether CEFR leave an impact or not, and whether or not CEFR achieve the native like speaker as mentioned before in the grammar way and everything. As one of the panelists, assessment panelists, and help to build the instrument for CEFR aligned primary school achievement test, UPSR, looking at the trend of the question, and since you have a vast experience in this field, do you think Ministry of Education will be able to achieve its target by 2025?
To be honest, I think they will. Government has always a way of achieving things. But the question is how valid and reliable the data is. That is something questionable for myself, because you see something very, the result is normally we will achieve, but then when we ask ourselves and we look at our own issues in school, so it's becoming something else in a way. Does it reflect the truth or not? That's the question. But I am hopeful. I would say I am very hopeful, and then I think they will revise everything. I think this is why what we did today is very important. Discussing and then having a platform for teachers to give our opinion, learn about this in university level and everything, so that our voice is amplified to a level that education will take action. We have to say our things, we have to know our rights in this sense, so that the changes are going to be on track. Accepting is good, but at the same time, knowing when to improve and improvise is also a major part of the process. And I think they will improvise the syllabus are not as wholly, because there's always, nowadays we are on KSSR Semakan 2017, right after we finish with the KSSR, then KSSR Semakan 2017, and so this is the last year for year 6 for primary school. So I think next year they will revise and see, and then I'm also hopeful and waiting to see what is the changes they are going to do. My voice is breaking again, and no. Is my voice okay? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So at the same time, I have to emphasize on the impact of learning loss when we are dealing with COVID. So going back to the question whether we are able to achieve this target by 2025, I would say maybe, but what is the right word? I am very, how do I say, in my honest answer, I do not feel like we will able to to be honest, because of that itself. Because I'm speaking about the literacy level itself for year 1, year 2, and year 3. You know, how in year 2, students are still struggling to read. And then imagine this impact sooner in 2025, the students for year 1, year 2, year 3 is going to be in secondary school. So secondary school teachers might be receiving the students who are struggling even to grasp the concept, the basic element of the language itself. So teachers in secondary school have to brace themselves of the impact of the learning loss itself. So it's still, I feel like it's still too early. It's still early to tell whether we are able to achieve the target of 2025. Maybe at teachers level, we are able to because we're an adult. But if we go deeper into a student level of grabbing this new knowledge of CFR, maybe we still need a lot of work in that sense. Because our CEFR also probably CE people need to understand of this nature of learning loss, that they have to put some element for literacy, you know, especially phonetic, like I said just now, and then phonetics for level 1. It's interesting because back in my New Zealand days, when we have practicum in New Zealand school, English is, of course, it's their first language, you know, treated like Bahasa Melayu. You know, you have phonetic and things like that. But that is in New Zealand. They even have phonetic for year 3, I think, 9 tahun.
Okay.
Yes, they still have when during their reading lesson. But I find it ironic that we're taking out the phonetic lesson, even though we are the second language of learners. You know, even first language also learning phonetic. I don't know why it's happening with this, that we are going backward in that sense. So I really do hope that some changes, even though we are able to achieve the target in 2025, but changes must be catered to the complaints and the feedback of the teachers, of officers at PPD, JPN, LTEC, everyone.
Agree. Otherwise, there will be no changes made, right? Okay, and with that, Brother Kamal, I would like to ask you one question from our participant, from Miss Suhaila binti Abdullah. She asked that, what is the future for English literature in schools? Will CEFR remove literature from the curriculum in the future? There is talk about in the school that it should be given less attention in class since it will not be tested in exam. So maybe 2 minutes, Brother Kamal? Thank you.
Okay, I think for primary school, it's not so much of a challenge to compare to secondary school, as mentioned by Ms. Atika Nori, because primary school, we do not have exam like SPM, you know, high stakes. So, inshallah, I do not think that it's going anywhere, because if I, as a teacher, even whoever I am later, I will definitely fight for literature's right, because I am this is my minor. You know, I see this such a huge potential, as Miss Atika Nori said, that how you can inculcate how they being critical, analyzing. It's not only the part of text, you know, like simile or whatsoever. It's just their imagination. They are willing to try. They are motivated to learn because of this, which I feel like people think it's small, but it is really not. And then answering that question, and also I saw a question about the textbook. If I were to briefly describing textbook, what happened year 1 and year 2 sharing textbook, and then year 3 and year 4 they have no grammar. Year 3 and year 4 is okay, still fun and manageable, but year 5 textbook, oh my god, you can tell this is the part when they want to rush into the grammar part, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. There's no continuum, you know, in the process of making this textbook. I can tell as a teacher that year 3, year 4, okay, suddenly year 5, wow, so difficult. And then year 6, they tone down, as if they're making it like hearing feedback and then we alter, hearing feedback and then alter. It cannot like that, you know? and then going back to our issues just now, not only with continuum, I think it's also important that before you implement the CFR, the textbook actually has to be existed already. Kan? Betul tak? The textbook should be there already.
Should be there already.
The textbook, yes, before the implementation. That's
True.
the one of the things. So yes, that's. I hope that answered the question.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Brother Kamal. Now, for the second question, I would like to ask Miss Atika Nuri, because we are running out of time. Sorry for taking up so much time. So, what would you advise to new teachers who are not majoring in English education or non-English option and not familiar with the CEFR to teach English in today's school? Is it possible? For Miss Atika Nuri.
Alright. Okay, I'm just going to go straightforward. Number one, being the non-optionist, because I have a good friend who's a non-optionist, she actually majored in chemistry. You have to always ask, number one. Ask the right person. If you ask the wrong person, of course you will be hindered back. Like, you two-step behind, like that. Number two, offer yourself, for example, to go for courses. That particular friend, she hopeful herself for anything with the CFR related matters. And number three, it is possible. Remember, there's the government do the one-off teaching, the one-off intake for teachers, right? So there are teachers who are actually not majoring in English. However, because the one-off punya offer, right now we are having the batch, the whole batch, the new teachers coming in. Obviously, they have to treat CFR just like a syllabus, a normal syllabus, because this is what we have. Okay, I think that's my.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
Moving on to our last question to Miss Atika binti Aznan. How much percentage of literature that we need to apply to our English lesson besides listening, speaking, reading, and writing, grammar, or does it work simultaneously? From Encik Muhammad Ismail Zulkifli. Like he asked
how much percentage? Okay, first, kalau you cikgu-cikgu, if you are teachers, look at your children in the classroom. Please look at your children. Again, as being a teacher, anak-anak sekolah kita ni, they have different needs. So we are as the parents in the classroom, the language parents, we need to know what is the thing that they need first. I would love to say that because I've been I think I love that I've been given this question because now I'm being a rural teacher, teaching a rural area since my first year of teaching, and number two, I've been since my first year I've been marking papers from the first year until I left school, because now I'm in sabbatical leave. I'm no longer marking, and this is where I want to emphasize that with all those pressure, with all those burden that we have, I want us teachers, hopefully that you can take a deep breath and take a break on having to rushing to do everything, because number one, we want to provide a soft landing to our students, know that we can make that they are comfortable and learn the language. For us, before we start to achieve something, we have to make sure that they are in the safe environment. We want to create this environment, unthreatening environment, where they can feel that when they enter your classroom, they will have the joy, they learn, they will know that, I'm going to do the best, I'm going to have fun. It's a bit difficult, but because this is a good lesson, they are okay with it. So by providing that, you teacher, even though I bagi tahu pelajar sekolah I, kami cikgu-cikgu pun risau macam, you bayangkan Form 5 students, you still have to teach them like sekolah rendah tau. Not following, the textbook entirely, like the content and all that. Because we have to menerima kenyataan they couldn't even grasp the grammar. Contoh I bagi, hari tu I talk about descriptive words. How to describe in part 2 SPM, part 2 questions, they have to write descriptive writing, one of the components. So they need to be able to write descriptive paragraph, for example. When I give them gambar, I bawa burger masa tu, food so I ask them to describe. They can describe in apa yang pelajar lemah ni boleh describe bahasa Melayu yang sedap teacher. Good. That level, Form 5. test it teacher, test it. And that's the language. And then when they try to construct the sentence, susah untuk for simple sentence. The burger good. I love it. Simple, but what? Oh no, that's amazing! You did great. If that is the best that you can do to your student, Alhamdulillah. Please own that. Don't feel that macam you tengok orang lain macam gempak-gempak. Kita dalam sekolah internet tak ada tau, susah. Sometimes usually we bring our own projector and all that stuff. And then that's number 2. And then number 3, I would love to say that learning loss is critical. Kita bercakap mengenai 2 tahun yang mana pelajar tidak menghadapi pembelajaran secara bermuka, and this is deeply impact how our system, and it takes like 2 or 3 years time to back on track again. And not only for school students, I believe those are postgraduate students, undergraduate students are feeling the same thing. The changes the online learning to the physical learning, you feel like alamak, kenapa lambat sangat? Because it's true, there's a learning gap there. Jadi cikgu don't ask about the percentage. If that is the best that content that you can do for my class, if you just say that I can only teach one line of the poem. Contoh, I nak ajar hari ni, nak ajar poem lama lah. I want to say that I want to introduce. Maybe I just love brief candle. That's the only thing that I can tell, because it's short poem to my students. Macam, and then when they just say, they get them to recite and then to talk about things and how it reflect to life, and then casually without them having assessment. If that is good enough, to say that language, if you can express yourself in your own beautiful way, then your goal is achieved.
Subhanallah, mashallah. Thank you so much for the information, knowledge that has been shared with all of us today. And with that, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot accept the question anymore, because we already at what time is it? 12 o'clock already. Okay, and thank you so much for attending our seminar, and as a token of our appreciation, we will send an e-certificate to your given email address. Also, don't forget to fill out the evaluation form as well. Our team will provide the link both now in the chat box and later in your email. Your feedback is highly appreciated to improve our performance in the future, inshallah. All right, it's photo session time. Hopefully that you can switch on your cameras, because our team will be taking a snapshot of this session for future references. I know. I don't see that. Freestyle, everyone. Say cheese. Only yet. Only this. We have only this. Don't be shy. Come on. Even though it's online, let's make it like face to face, so that we can see your lovely and charming faces. Got it? All right. Say cheese, everyone, in 3, 2, 1. One more another freestyle. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Well. Beautiful smile. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Our beautiful Miss Atika binti Nuri, Miss Atika binti Aznan, and our handsome brother Ahmad Kamal Effendi. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our session for today. Again, on behalf of my team, we would like to thank you all for making time in your busy schedule to join us for this seminar, for this online seminar, Literature in CEFR, Yes or No. Once again, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the respected panelists and participants for your presence. We would also like to apologize for any shortcomings and inconveniences. Hope to meet you again. Wish you all a pleasant day and stay safe wherever you are. Let's end our session with the recitation of Tasbih Kafara and Surah Al-Asr. And with that, everyone, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you.
Thank you.